The soldier's heart had stopped. Monitor flatlined. Senior doctors stood frozen around the gurney, hands hovering, voices rising in panic. Then a pair of hands, small, steady, belonging to someone they'd told to stay back, pressed hard into the chest cavity and did something no one expected. The flatline jolted, a blip, then another. The room went dead silent. Because the woman they'd been dismissing all week, the quiet nurse they talked over, interrupted, and treated like furniture, had just moved like a combat surgeon. Dr. Marcus Holt stared at her, face red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Emily Carter didn't answer. She pulled her hands back, stepped away from the table, and let them take over. But her eyes stayed sharp, watching, counting. And in that moment, everyone in the room knew they had no idea who she really was. If you want to see how far a story about silence, survival, and justice can go, stick with me to the end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Let's see how far this one travels. The morning Emily Carter walked into Silvergate Veterans Hospital for her first shift, no one looked up. She was used to that. 29, pale skin that hadn't seen much sun in years, dark blonde hair pulled into a tight bun. She wore scrubs like everyone else, moved through the halls like everyone else. But she didn't talk like everyone else, because she barely talked at all. "You're the new RN." The charge nurse, a broad-shouldered woman named Rita, barely glanced at her clipboard. "You'll shadow Dr. Holt today. Don't get in his way." Emily nodded. "Understood. Good." Rita turned away before Emily could say anything else. That set the tone. Dr. Marcus Holt was a cardiovascular surgeon with a reputation, sharp, fast, loud. He ran the emergency department like a battlefield, except he'd never been to one. Emily knew that within 5 minutes of watching him work. "Nurse, get me a central line kit. Now." She handed it to him before he finished the sentence. He didn't thank her, didn't even look at her. "Nurse, where's the attending? Page him." "Already did," Emily said quietly. 2 minutes out. Holt paused, glanced sideways at her, then kept moving. "Fine. Stay close. Don't touch anything unless I tell you." Emily stayed close. She didn't touch anything, but she watched everything. The patient was a veteran, mid-40s, presenting with chest pain and arrhythmia. Holt ran through the standard protocol, barking orders, moving fast. But Emily noticed something off in the timing. The medication doses were standard, but the intervals weren't. Small gaps, slight delays, nothing that would raise a flag on paper. But enough to matter. She said nothing. By the 3rd day, she'd seen the same pattern 3 times. By the 5th day, she'd memorized the shifts when it happened. And by the end of this first week, she knew someone was doing it on purpose. The hospital itself felt like a relic. Built in the 70s, renovated poorly in the 90s, now limping into the present with flickering fluorescent lights and linoleum floors that squeaked under every step. It sat on the edge of Coldwater, a mid-sized city in the Midwest that had seen better days. The veterans who came through its doors deserved better, but budget cuts and bureaucracy had stripped the place down to its bones. Emily moved through it like a ghost. She picked up extra shifts without being asked, covered for nurses who called in sick, stayed late to finish charts that weren't hers. No one questioned it. Most people assumed she was just eager, trying to prove herself. They had no idea she was mapping the entire operation. Every nurse, every doctor, every shift rotation, every supply order, every patient outcome. She kept it all in a small notebook she carried in her scrub pocket. Handwritten, no digital trail. Old habits. It started small. A post-op patient coded unexpectedly. Routine gallbladder surgery. Low risk. But 6 hours after being moved to recovery, his pressure dropped hard and fast. Crash cart, resuscitation, declared dead at 11:47 p.m. "Complications," the attending said during the debrief. "It happens." Emily stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, saying nothing. 2 days later, another one. Different surgery, same timeline, same outcome. Sepsis, they said. Post-surgical infection. Rare, but not unheard of. Emily made a note in her phone. Date. Time. Medication log. Attending physician. Surgical team. She didn't share it with anyone, not yet. The 3rd death happened on a Sunday morning. Emily wasn't even on shift. She heard about it during handoff Monday night. Another veteran. Another routine procedure. Another unexpected decline. 3rd one this month, one of the nurses muttered in the break room. Makes you wonder. Wonder what? Another nurse asked. Nothing. Just bad luck, I guess. Emily poured herself coffee and said nothing. But she pulled the charts later that night, cross-referenced the surgical teams, the medications, the timing. And that's when she saw it. Every patient who died had been under the care of the same 3 attending physicians. Holt was one of them. Dr. Raymond Kemp was another, a general surgeon in his 50s with a quiet demeanor and a reputation for steady hands. The third was Dr. Lillian Cross, an anesthesiologist who'd been at Silvergate for nearly 2 decades. Emily wrote their names in her notebook, circled them. Then she kept watching. Dr. Ava Bennett was the first person who didn't treat Emily like wallpaper. She was a trauma surgeon, 42, black, sharp as hell, and frustrated. You see it too, don't you? Emily was restocking a supply cart when Ava's voice came from behind her. She turned slowly. See what? Ava leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. The pattern. Post-op deaths. Same window, same presentation. Emily hesitated, then nodded once. Ava exhaled. Thank God. I thought I was losing my mind. You're not. I brought it up in rounds yesterday, Ava said. Holt shut me down, said I was seeing ghosts, that I needed to focus on my own cases and stop stirring panic. Emily's jaw tightened. You're not wrong. No, I'm not. Ava studied her for a moment. You're new here, but you're not new to this, are you? Emily didn't answer. Ava smiled faintly. Thought so. She pushed off the doorframe and walked closer. Look, I don't know what your story is, and I'm not asking. But if you see what I'm seeing, then we need to talk, off the record. Emily considered that. When? Tonight, after shift. There's a diner 2 blocks south, Mabel's. You know it? Emily nodded. Good, 7:30. Ava left without waiting for confirmation. Emily finished restocking the cart, checked her watch, and went back to work. Mabel's was exactly what you'd expect. Vinyl booths, laminated menus, coffee that tasted like it had been sitting on the burner since morning. But it was quiet, and far enough from the hospital that no one would see them together. Ava was already in a corner booth when Emily arrived, 2 cups of coffee on the table. You're punctual, Ava said. I am. Emily slid into the seat across from her. Ava didn't waste time. I've been tracking the deaths for 6 weeks. Same patterns you probably saw. Post-op window. Sudden decline. Resuscitation attempts that don't work. Every time the attending says it was unforeseeable. But it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Ava pulled out her phone, opened a notes app. I started documenting everything. Times, medication logs, shift rotations. I even pulled insurance records. Emily's eyes sharpened. And every patient who died had a high-value life insurance policy tied to the VA benefits program. Policies that pay out to the hospital's research fund if the patient dies within 90 days post-admission. Emily leaned back slightly. How much? Per patient, 5 to 20,000. Not huge, but over 2 years? Ava's voice dropped. 1.3 million. Emily let that sink in. You brought this to administration? I tried. Got stonewalled. They said I was overreaching, that I was making connections where there weren't any. Ava's frustration was barely contained. So I stopped pushing, kept my head down. But I didn't stop watching. And now? Now I'm talking to you, because you're the first person who didn't look at me like I was crazy. Emily took a sip of her coffee. It was terrible. She drank it anyway. Who else knows? No one. I can't trust anyone inside the hospital. Not yet. Ava leaned forward. But you're different. You don't react like everyone else. You see things before they happen. And you don't second-guess yourself. Emily met her gaze. I've seen this before. Where? Somewhere else. A long time ago. Ava waited. Emily didn't elaborate. Okay, Ava said finally. Then you know what we're dealing with. I do. And you know what happens if we're wrong. We're not wrong. Ava smiled grimly. Good, because I'm about to bet my career on it. The humiliation came on a Tuesday. A young soldier, 23, shrapnel wound from a training accident, was brought in hemorrhaging. Emily was on the trauma team assisting. Holt was lead. Ava was scrubbed in. Pressure's dropping, 80 over 50, Emily said. I can see that, Holt snapped. Get me more gauze. He needs a transfusion now, Emily said. He's losing too much too fast? I'll decide what he needs. You're waiting too long. Holt stopped, looked at her. Excuse me? The room went quiet. Emily kept her voice level. If you don't start the transfusion in the next 60 seconds, he's going to code. Holt's face went red. You don't give orders in my OR. I'm not giving orders, I'm telling you what's happening. You're a nurse. He turned to the rest of the team. Someone get her out of here. Ava stepped forward. Marcus, she's right. Look at his output. I don't need a second opinion from someone who can't even keep her own patients alive. Holt's voice cut like a scalpel. Get her out. Security escorted Emily from the OR. She didn't fight it. She walked to the locker room, changed into street clothes, and sat on the bench for 10 minutes, staring at the floor. Her hands were steady. They always were. But inside, the old anger was waking up. The kind she'd learned to bury. The kind that didn't help anyone. She took a breath, let it out slow. Then she got up, clocked back in, and went back to work. That night, Ava found her in the break room. You were right, Ava said quietly. He coded. We got him back, but barely. Emily didn't respond. Why didn't you fight it? Ava asked. Why didn't you push back? Because it wouldn't have mattered. It might have. Emily finally looked at her. No, it wouldn't. Ava sat down across from her. You've done this before, haven't you? Done what? Been the person in the room who knows more than everyone else, and been ignored for it. Emily's silence was answer enough. Ava leaned forward. So what do we do? We watch, Emily said. We count. And when the time comes, we make sure no one can ignore it. Ava studied her for a long moment. You're not just a nurse, are you? Emily didn't answer. I'm not asking for your life story, Ava said. But if we're going to do this, I need to know you're not going to bail when it gets ugly. I won't. How do I know that? Emily's eyes were cold, flat. Because I've already lost everything once. I'm not losing again. Ava held her gaze, then nodded. Okay, then let's burn this place down. The pattern continued. Another post-op death. Then another. Emily tracked every detail. Medication logs, shift rotations, surgical teams. She cross-referenced them with hospital records, patient histories, insurance files. And then she saw it. Every patient who died had one thing in common: high-value life insurance policies through a military benefits program. Policies that paid out to the hospital's research fund if the patient died within a certain window post-surgery. Small payouts, 5, 10, 20,000. Not enough to raise alarms, but add them up over 2 years? Over $1 million. Emily printed the spreadsheet, folded it, put it in her locker, and waited. She started noticing other things too. Small things that didn't make sense on their own but fit together once you knew what to look for. Dr. Kemp had bought a new car. Expensive. Way above what a general surgeon at a VA hospital should be able to afford. Dr. Cross had taken 3 vacations in the last 6 months, all international, all paid in cash according to the receipts she left lying around the staff lounge. And Holt? Holt had just put a down payment on a lake house 2 hours north of Coldwater. Emily knew because one of the other nurses had mentioned it during lunch. Must be nice, the nurse had said. Rest of us can barely make rent. Emily had said nothing, but she'd written it down. Money always left a trail. You just had to know where to look. The breaking point came on a Friday night. A young soldier named Tyler Brooks was brought in. 24. IED injury from overseas. Stable, but needed surgery to remove retained shrapnel near his lung. Routine, low risk. Emily wasn't assigned to his case, but she checked his chart anyway. And there it was, an unauthorized medication change, buried in the post-op orders, a dosage adjustment that didn't match protocol. Small, subtle, lethal if timed wrong. Emily's heart pounded. She pulled Ava aside in the hallway. They're going to kill him. Ava's eyes went wide. What? Tyler Brooks. Room 9. Check his chart, post-op meds, Someone changed the anticoagulant dose. Ava grabbed a tablet, pulled up the file. Her face went pale. Jesus Christ! We need to stop it, Emily said. Now! If we go to Holt, he's part of it. Ava froze. You're sure? Look at the signatures, every case, every death. He was lead surgeon or attending on all of them. Ava stared at the screen, then at Emily. We can't just accuse him. We need proof. We need... The hospital intercom crackled. Code blue. Room 9. Code blue. Emily didn't wait. She ran. When she burst into room 9, the scene was chaos. Tyler was seizing, monitor screaming, 2 nurses trying to hold him down, a resident fumbling with a crash cart, and Dr. Marcus Holt standing at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, watching. Not moving, just watching. Where's the attending? Emily shouted. On his way, Holt said calmly. He doesn't have time. Emily moved to the bedside. He's bleeding internally. The anticoagulant dose was prescribed correctly, Holt interrupted. No, it wasn't. Emily grabbed the chart, shoved it toward him. You changed it. You increased it. And now he's hemorrhaging. Holt's expression didn't change. You're out of line, Nurse Carter. Then stop me. She didn't wait for permission. Emily grabbed the override key from the med cart, pulled the reversal agent, and pushed it into Tyler's IV. What the hell are you doing? Holt moved toward her. Saving his life. One of the nurses looked at Holt. Should I? Don't touch her, Holt said quietly. Let her hang herself. Tyler's vitals spiked, then stabilized. The seizure stopped. His breathing evened out. The room went silent. Holt stared at her. You just violated protocol. I just stopped him from dying. You don't have the authority. The door slammed open. A woman in military dress uniform stepped inside. Tall, black. Silver eagles on her shoulders. Colonel Sarah Whitmore. Behind her, 2 military police officers. She looked at Emily, then at Holt, then back at Emily. Her voice was quiet, cold. Captain Carter, you were declared inactive 3 years ago. Emily met her eyes. Didn't flinch. I was. Whitmore's jaw tightened. Then what the hell are you doing here? Emily glanced at Tyler, still breathing, still alive. My job. Whitmore's expression shifted, just slightly. Recognition, respect, and something else. Anger. She turned to Holt. Dr. Holt, you're under investigation. Step away from the patient. Holt's face went white. I don't know what she told you, but Federal Audit Trail, Whitmore said. We've been tracking financial irregularities and veteran death benefits for 18 months. Your name came up 6 weeks ago. We've been building a case, waiting for confirmation. She glanced at Emily. Which we just got? Holt's mouth opened, closed. Whitmore nodded to the MPs standing in the hallway. Take him. They moved fast, professional, efficient. Holt didn't resist, but as they cuffed him, he looked at Emily one last time. You have no idea what you just did. Emily's voice was steady, calm. I know exactly what I did. They let him out. The room stayed silent. Tyler Brooks was still unconscious. Monitor beeping steadily now. Normal rhythm, normal pressure. Alive. Ava stood in the doorway, staring at Emily like she'd just watched someone walk through a wall. Whitmore crossed the room, stopped in front of Emily. We need to talk. I know. Not here. Downstairs. Conference room. Now. Emily nodded. She followed Whitmore out of the room, down the hall, past nurses and doctors who stared but didn't say a word. Ava caught up to them at the elevator. I'm coming too. Whitmore glanced at her. And you are? Dr. Ava Bennett, trauma surgery. I've been tracking the same pattern for 2 months. Whitmore considered that, then nodded. Fine. Let's go. The conference room was small, windowless, a single table, 4 chairs. Whitmore sat, gestured for Emily and Ava to do the same. One of the MPs stayed outside. The other stood inside by the door. Whitmore pulled out a tablet, opened a file. Captain Emily Rose Carter, Army Medical Corps, Commission 2015, deployed twice, Iraq, Afghanistan, field surgeon, decorated, fast-tracked for promotion. Whitmore looked up. Then discharged under murky circumstances in 2022, officially listed as voluntary separation. But the paperwork smells like a cover-up. Emily said nothing. You were investigating something, Whitmore continued. Weren't you? Yes? What? Emily's voice was flat. The same thing you're investigating now. Whitmore leaned back. Explain. There was a field hospital outside Kabul, small, mostly coalition forces. We started seeing deaths, post-op, same window, same presentation. I tracked it for 3 months, found the pattern, found the money trail. Emily's jaw tightened. I reported it. They buried it. Said I was mistaken. Said I was overstepping. Said I was causing problems. She paused. 2 weeks later, I was pulled from active duty. Given a choice. Resign quietly or face court-martial for insubordination. So you resigned. I did. And the investigation? Disappeared, along with the evidence, along with the people I reported. Whitmore's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. You should have pushed harder. I did. They broke me. And yet here you are. Emily met her gaze. Here I am. Whitmore turned to Ava. And you? I'm just a surgeon who got tired of watching people die for no reason. You're also risking your license by being in this room. I know. Good. Whitmore closed the tablet. Then let's talk about what happens next. Why? The fallout was immediate. 3 more doctors arrested by morning, 2 nurses, 1 hospital administrator. Federal agents and military investigators moved through Silvergate like a surgical team. Every file pulled, every account frozen, every communication logged. The financial trail was clean once they started digging, every death linked, every payout traced. A network of shell companies funneling money through hospital budgets and personal accounts. It wasn't just about greed, it was systematic, calculated, and it had been going on for years. Emily's name was everywhere. Not as a nurse, as the military officer who'd been forced out for refusing to cover up the same scheme 3 years earlier, at a different hospital under a different command. The media picked it up fast. Local news first, then national. Former Army captain exposes VA hospital conspiracy. Whistleblower returns to finish what she started. Emily didn't talk to reporters, didn't give interviews, didn't make statements. She just kept working. Ava found her in the parking lot at dawn 3 days later. You were a captain. Emily nodded. They buried you. They tried. Ava exhaled. And now? Emily looked back at the hospital. Lights still on. Investigators still inside. Police tape across the administrative wing. Now they can't. Ava smiled faintly. You know they're going to offer you your commission back. I know. You going to take it? Emily didn't answer right away. She just stood there, watching the sunrise break over cold water. I don't know yet, she said finally, but I know one thing. What's that? I'm not done. Ava laughed. Actually laughed. Good, because neither am I. They stood there for a while. 2 women who'd refused to look away, who'd refused to stay quiet, who'd burned it all down just to make sure no one else had to die in silence. Inside the hospital, Tyler Brooks opened his eyes for the first time in 3 days. He didn't know it yet, but the woman who'd saved his life was standing in the parking lot right outside his window, still refusing to walk away. But the world wasn't going to let her stay still. The first subpoena arrived Tuesday morning, hand-delivered by a federal courier who didn't smile, didn't make small talk, just placed the envelope in Emily's hand and walked away. She opened it in the hospital parking lot, standing next to her car. The legal language was dense, but the message was clear. Testify or face obstruction charges. She folded it, put it in her bag, and went inside for her shift. By noon, 3 more envelopes had arrived. 1 for Ava. 1 for Rita, the charge nurse. 1 for a junior resident who'd been in the room when Tyler Brooks coded. The hospital was being dissected, piece by piece, and everyone who'd witnessed anything was being pulled into the machinery of federal prosecution. Emily found Ava in the surgical lounge, staring at her own subpoena like it might bite her. You okay? Ava looked up. Define okay? Still breathing. Barely. Ava tossed the paper onto the table. They want me in front of a grand jury next week. Full testimony. Every detail, every suspicion, Every conversation. She paused. Including the ones with you. Emily sat down across from her. You worried? About testifying? No. About what comes after. Ava's voice dropped. Yeah, I'm worried. They can't touch you. You reported it. You followed the trail. That's not what I'm worried about. Ava leaned forward. I'm worried about the people who helped them. The ones who haven't been arrested yet. The ones who are still here. Emily had thought about that too. Holt, Kemp, and Cross were in custody. The hospital administrator was facing federal charges. But a conspiracy that size didn't run on 3 people. There were others. Nurses who looked the other way. Residents who signed off on questionable orders. Staff who benefited indirectly and kept their mouths shut. And they were all still walking the halls. You think someone's going to retaliate? Emily asked. I think someone's going to try. Emily didn't disagree. That night, she checked her car before driving home, looked under the chassis, checked the brake lines, old habits from a different life. Everything was fine. But she kept checking anyway. The hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday, federal courthouse downtown. Emily had been inside once before, years ago, during her own discharge proceedings. The building looked the same, cold, institutional, built to intimidate. She arrived early, wore a plain blouse and slacks, no scrubs, no uniform, just civilian clothes that didn't draw attention. Ava met her on the steps outside. You ready for this? No, Emily said, but I'm here. They went inside together. The courtroom was smaller than Emily expected. Wood paneling, high ceilings, rows of benches that were mostly empty except for a handful of reporters, a few federal prosecutors, and a legal team representing the hospital. Emily recognized one of the lawyers, a sharp-dressed man in his 50s who'd made a career out of defending institutions that didn't deserve it. Colonel Whitmore was already seated near the front. She nodded at Emily but didn't smile. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The proceedings began. Emily was called first. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Then she sat down and waited. The prosecutor was a woman in her 40s. Sharp, efficient, no wasted words. State your name for the record. Emily Rose Carter. And your current occupation? Registered nurse, Silvergate Veterans Hospital. And prior to that? Captain, United States Army Medical Corps. How long did you serve? 7 years. And why did you leave? Emily's jaw tightened. I was forced to resign. Can you elaborate? I reported a conspiracy involving military medical personnel and fraudulent insurance payouts. The investigation was buried. I was given a choice, resign or face court-martial. And you resigned? Yes. Why? Because I didn't have a choice. The prosecutor paused. Let that hang in the air. Then she moved forward. When you started working at Silvergate, did you notice anything unusual? Yes. What? Patients were dying, post-op, same window, same presentation, too many, too often. And what did you do? I tracked it, documented it, cross-referenced medication logs, surgical teams, insurance records. And what did you find? A pattern. Every patient who died had a high-value life insurance policy tied to VA benefits, policies that paid out to the hospital if the patient died within a certain time frame. And how much money are we talking about? Over $1 million, spread across 2 years. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge didn't intervene. The prosecutor continued. Did you report this to hospital administration? No. Why not? Because I'd seen it before. I knew what would happen. They'd bury it, and I'd be the one who disappeared. So what did you do instead? I waited. I gathered evidence, and when the moment came, I acted. Can you describe that moment? Emily took a breath. A patient named Tyler Brooks was scheduled for surgery. Routine, low risk. But someone altered his post-op medication orders, increased the anticoagulant dose, enough to cause internal bleeding. She paused. I intervened, reversed the medication, saved his life. And who altered the orders? Dr. Marcus Holt. More murmurs. The defense attorney stood. Objection. Speculation. The judge looked at Emily. Do you have proof? The signatures are in the medical records, his name, his credentials, His authorization code. The judge nodded. Overruled. Continue. The prosecutor smiled faintly. Thank you, Captain Carter. No further questions. The defense attorney stood. He was tall, graying hair, expensive suit, the kind of man who made a living tearing people apart on the stand. Ms. Carter. Captain Carter, Emily corrected. He paused. You were discharged. I was forced to resign. There's a difference. Is there? He walked closer. You claim you were forced out for reporting a conspiracy. But isn't it true that you were investigated for insubordination, for refusing direct orders, for creating a hostile work environment? Emily's voice stayed level. That's what they claimed. Yes. And isn't it possible that you were simply a difficult employee? Someone who didn't follow protocol? Who thought she knew better than her superiors? No. No? He smiled. You don't think it's possible. I know it's not true. How? Because I was right then, and I'm right now. The defense attorney's smile faded. You have a history of making accusations, of seeing conspiracies where there are none, of disrupting institutions because you can't accept authority. Emily leaned forward slightly. I have a history of refusing to let people die when I can stop it. Silence. The defense attorney stared at her, then turned away. No further questions. Emily stepped down, walked back to her seat. Her hands were steady. But inside, the old anger was burning again. Ava testified next. Then Rita. Then the junior resident. Each one corroborated the timeline, the pattern, the evidence. By the time the session ended, the case was airtight. But that didn't mean it was over. Emily left the courthouse alone. Ava had been pulled aside by one of the prosecutors for additional questioning. Whitmore had disappeared into a side room with federal agents. The reporters tried to shout questions as Emily walked down the steps, but she ignored them. She made it halfway to her car when she heard footsteps behind her. Fast. Deliberate. She turned. A man in his 30s, scrubs under a jacket. She recognized him, one of the surgical residents from Silvergate. His name was David something. She'd seen him in the OR a few times, but never worked with him directly. You need to stop, he said. Emily's posture shifted slightly. Not aggressive, just ready. Stop what? Talking, testifying, whatever the hell you think you're doing. I'm telling the truth. You're destroying people's lives. People who killed patients for money. David's face twisted. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how hard it is to keep a place like Silvergate running. The budgets, the cuts, the impossible choices. So you kill people to balance the books? We saved lives. More lives than we lost. That's not how it works. You don't get to decide that. David stepped closer. You come in here acting like some kind of hero, but you're not. You're just someone who couldn't let go, someone who can't move on. Emily's voice dropped. Cold. Flat. Move. Or what? Or I'll move you. David stared at her. Then he laughed, bitter, angry. You think you're tough because you were in the military? You think that scares me? Emily didn't answer. She just waited. David took another step, then stopped. Something in her eyes made him hesitate. This isn't over, he said finally. I know. He turned and walked away. Emily stood there for a moment, watching him go. Then she got in her car and drove home. But she didn't sleep that night. The threats started small. Unsigned emails, anonymous messages on her phone. Nothing explicit, just enough to let her know someone was watching. You should have stayed quiet. This won't end well for you. People like you don't win. Emily deleted them, didn't respond, but she started checking her locks twice before bed, started parking in well-lit areas, started varying her routes home. Ava got them too. So did Rita. So did the resident who testified. They're trying to scare us, Ava said during a late-night phone call. It's working, Rita admitted. Not for me, Emily said. I've been scared before. This isn't it. Then what is it? Emily looked out her window. Dark street, empty sidewalk, no movement. Confirmation. They're desperate. That means we're close. Close to what? The rest of them. The second wave of arrests came Friday morning. 2 more nurses. another resident, a pharmacy tech who'd been altering medication logs to cover the discrepancies. Each one led to another name, another account, another thread in the conspiracy. The hospital was hemorrhaging staff, emergency hires, temp nurses, locum doctors. The place was barely functional, but the patients kept coming. Emily worked a double shift, then another. The exhaustion was setting in, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because if she stopped, someone else would die. And she'd spent too long fighting to let that happen now. Tyler Brooks was discharged on Saturday. Emily wasn't there when he left, but Ava told her about it later. "He asked for you," Ava said. "Wanted to thank you. He doesn't need to. He knows, but he wanted to anyway." Ava paused. "He also said something else." "What?" "He said he remembered you from before, from Afghanistan." Emily went still. "He said you operated on him 3 years ago, field hospital outside Kabul, shrapnel wound. Everyone thought he was going to die, but you didn't let him." Emily's throat tightened. She didn't remember every patient. There'd been too many, too much blood, too many faces that blurred together in the chaos. But she remembered Tyler. She remembered because he'd been the one case where she'd fought the attending surgeon, where she'd insisted on a different approach, where she'd been right and still been punished for it. "He's the reason you got discharged, isn't he?" Ava asked quietly. Emily didn't answer, but Ava already knew. The formal hearing to reinstate Emily's military commission was scheduled for the following Tuesday. She didn't ask for it, didn't request it. But Whitmore had pushed it through anyway. "You earned it," Whitmore said when they spoke the night before. "You earned it 3 years ago. And you earned it again last week." "I don't want it back," Emily said. Whitmore paused. "Why not?" "Because I don't trust them. I don't trust the system. I don't trust the people who buried me the first time. The people who buried you are gone, reassigned, retired, disgraced, and replaced with people just like them." Whitmore didn't argue. She couldn't. "So what do you want?" Whitmore asked finally. "I want to finish this. I want every person who was part of it held accountable. I want the families of every patient who died to know what happened. And I want to make sure it never happens again. And then? Then I'll decide." The hearing was quick, formal, procedural. Emily sat at a table while a panel of 3 officers reviewed her file, her service record, her discharge paperwork, the evidence from the Silvergate case. They asked a few questions. She answered them. No elaboration, no emotion, just facts. At the end, the senior officer, a brigadier general with a weathered face and cold eyes, leaned forward. "Captain Carter, your discharge has been reviewed and found to be improper. Your record has been corrected. Your rank and honors have been restored. You are hereby reinstated to active duty, effective immediately." Emily didn't react. "Do you accept?" She looked at Whitmore, then at the panel. "I need time to think about it." The general frowned. "This isn't a negotiation." "I'm not negotiating. I'm asking for time." The general studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You have 2 weeks. After that, the offer expires." Emily stood. Understood. She left the building without looking back. Ava was waiting outside. "Well?" "They want me back." "And?" "I don't know yet." Ava smiled. "Good, because Silvergate wants you too." Emily stopped. "What?" "They're cleaning house, new administration, new oversight, new protocols, and they want you to lead the trauma response team." Ava pulled out a folded letter. "Chief Medical Officer sent this yesterday. Full faculty position, better pay, full authority, no more being talked over, no more being dismissed." Emily took the letter, read it. It was real. "Why?" "Because you proved you're the best person for the job." Emily looked at the letter again, then at Ava. "I don't know if I can do this." "Yes, you do. You've been doing it your whole life. You just haven't had anyone recognize it until now." Emily folded the letter, put it in her pocket. "I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking." They walked back to the parking lot together. The sun was setting. The city was quiet. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt like she could breathe. But that feeling didn't last long. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice. Male. Distorted. Filtered through some kind of voice changer. You should have stayed quiet, Captain. Emily's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who knows what you did and what you're still doing. If you have something to say it. You think you won, but you didn't. You just made things worse for yourself, for everyone. The line went dead. Emily stood there, staring at her phone. Ava noticed. What's wrong? Someone just threatened me. Again? No, this was different. Different how? Emily didn't answer. She just pulled up her call log, tried to trace the number. It was scrambled, routed through multiple proxies, untraceable. Whoever called her knew what they were doing, and they knew exactly who she was. Ava's phone rang. She answered. Her face went pale. What? Emily asked. Ava didn't speak. She just stared at her screen. Ava, what is it? Ava turned her phone around. It was a news alert. Breaking story. Local reporter. Federal witness found dead, suspected overdose. Emily's stomach dropped. She clicked the article, read the first line. David Brennan, 34, a surgical resident at Silvergate Veterans Hospital, was found unresponsive in his apartment early this morning. Authorities suspect a drug overdose. Brennan was scheduled to testify in the ongoing federal investigation into medical fraud at the hospital. Emily's hands shook. David. The resident who'd confronted her outside the courthouse. Dead. This wasn't an overdose, Emily said quietly. You don't know that. Yes, I do. A warning. Ava's face drained of color. We need to call someone, the police, the FBI, Whitmore, someone. Emily was already dialing. Whitmore picked up on the second ring. Carter? David Brennan is dead. Silence on the other end. Then, I know, I just got the call. It wasn't an overdose. I know that too. Whitmore's voice was tight. Where are you right now? Hospital parking lot with Dr. Bennett. Get somewhere public. Somewhere with cameras. Stay there. I'm sending a protective detail. I don't need... That wasn't a request, Captain. Whitmore's tone left no room for argument. You're a federal witness. So is Bennett. If someone's cleaning house, you're both targets. Move. Now. The line went dead. Emily looked at Ava. We need to go. Go where? Anywhere but here. They drove to a 24-hour diner 6 blocks from the hospital. Bright lights. Full windows. Security cameras visible at every corner. Emily parked where she could see both entrances. Old habits kicking in again. Inside, they took a booth in the back corner. Emily sat facing the door. Ava sat across from her, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched. David came to see me, Ava said quietly. 2 days ago, before he confronted you. Emily looked at her. What did he say? He was scared. Said he'd been pulled into something he didn't understand. That Holt had asked him to sign off on medication orders without reviewing them. That he did it because he didn't want to make waves. Ava's voice cracked. He said he didn't know people were dying until it was too late. And you believed him? I don't know. Maybe. He seemed genuine. Ava finally looked up. But now he's dead. So either he was lying or someone decided he knew too much. Emily's jaw tightened. Both. He was lying about not knowing, but he probably told someone he was going to talk. That made him a liability. Then we're liabilities too. Yes. Ava set down her cup. So what do? We finish it before they finish us. 2 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot 20 minutes later. Federal agents. 4 of them. 2 posted outside. 2 came inside and took positions near the entrance. One of them, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense posture, walked over to their booth. Captain Carter, Dr. Bennett, I'm Agent Lisa Ortega. Colonel Whitmore sent us. You're both under protective custody until further notice. Emily nodded. Understood. We're taking you to a secure location. You'll stay there until the investigation is complete. How long? As long as it takes. Emily glanced at Ava, then back at Ortega. I have patience. So does Dr. Bennett. We can't just disappear. Your patients will be reassigned. Your safety is the priority. My priority is making sure no one else dies. Ortega's expression didn't change. With respect, Captain, if you're dead, you can't save anyone. Emily couldn't argue with that. They left the diner under escort. The secure location turned out to be a federal safe house on the outskirts of Coldwater. Unremarkable ranch-style house in a quiet neighborhood. Reinforced doors, panic room, armed agents rotating shifts. Emily hated it immediately, but she stayed. Because Ava needed her to, and because Ortega was right, dead witnesses didn't help anyone. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. Emily sat in the living room staring at the wall, replaying every moment since she'd walked into Silvergate. Every decision, every hesitation, every person she'd trusted. David's face kept surfacing, the anger in his eyes when he'd confronted her, the fear underneath it. She'd seen that look before, in Afghanistan, in soldiers who'd been ordered to do things they didn't want to do, who'd convinced themselves they were following orders, who'd rationalized every compromise until they couldn't see the line anymore. And then they crossed it. Ava came into the room around midnight. Can't sleep? Never could. Ava sat down on the couch. Me neither. They sat in silence for a while. Then Ava spoke. Do you ever regret it? Pushing back, refusing to let things go. Emily considered that. No. Not even a little? No. Why? Because the alternative is worse. Ava smiled faintly. You really believe that? I have to. The silence stretched between them. Emily could hear the agents moving outside. Footsteps on gravel, radio chatter kept low. The machinery of protection humming in the background. Tell me about Kabul, Ava said finally. Emily's jaw tightened. Not much to tell. I don't believe that. Doesn't matter what you believe. It does to me. Ava leaned forward. If we're going to finish this together, I need to understand what we're up against. And I need to understand you. Emily was quiet for a long time. Then she started talking. There was a field hospital, coalition forces. We saw everyone. Americans, Brits, local contractors, civilians caught in crossfire. She paused. And we started losing people. Not from their injuries. From complications after surgery, infections, unexpected hemorrhaging, organ failure. Same pattern as Silvergate. Exactly the same. I noticed it after the fourth death. Started tracking it. Found the insurance angle. Found the money. Found the people involved. Emily's voice went flat. My commanding officer was a brigadier general named Richard Caldwell. I went to him with everything, files, evidence, names. And he thanked me, told me he'd handle it personally, said it was sensitive and needed to stay quiet. Emily's hands clenched. 2 weeks later, nothing had changed. I went back, pushed harder. He told me to stand down, said I was overreaching, that I was seeing conspiracies where there weren't any. But you didn't stand down. No. I went over his head, sent the files to the Inspector General's office, to JAG, to anyone who'd listen. Emily's voice dropped. 3 days later, I was pulled from duty. Investigated for insubordination, conduct unbecoming, falsifying reports. They hit me with everything. They buried you. They tried, but the charges wouldn't stick. Too many people had seen my work. Too many people knew I was right. Emily looked at Ava. So they gave me a choice. Resign quietly with an honorable discharge, or face court-martial on trumped-up charges that would drag out for years and destroy my career either way. And you chose to resign. I chose to survive, so I could fight another day. Ava was quiet for a moment. And Caldwell? Got promoted, transferred stateside, kept running the same operation, just in different hospitals. Kept killing veterans for profit. Kept getting away with it. Emily's eyes were cold. Until now. The next morning, Whitmore arrived with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. She spread the contents across the dining table. Financial records, emails, text messages, recorded phone calls. This is everything we've pulled in the last 72 hours, Whitmore said. And it's bigger than we thought. Emily scanned the documents. Names she recognized, names she didn't. Dates going back 5 years. Transactions routed through offshore accounts. Shell companies with addresses that didn't exist. How many people? Emily asked. At Silvergate? 12 confirmed. Another 8 under investigation. Whitmore tapped a page. But it doesn't stop there. We found connections to 3 other VA hospitals. Same pattern. Same payouts. Same MO. Ava looked up sharply. 3 other hospitals? Portland, Atlanta, Denver. Whitmore's voice was grim. We're talking hundreds of deaths, millions of dollars. Emily's hands clenched. How long has this been going on? At least 7 years, maybe longer. 7 years. Hundreds of deaths. And no one had stopped it. Until now. Who's running it? Emily asked. Whitmore pulled out another document. A photograph. Military officer, 2 stars. Brigadier General Richard Caldwell. Emily's blood went cold. You know him, Whitmore said. It wasn't a question. He was my CO in Kabul when I tried to report the conspiracy the first time. Emily's voice was flat. He's the one who forced me out. Whitmore nodded slowly. Then he's been running this operation for at least 7 years, using his position to bury investigations, intimidate witnesses, protect the network. And David? Ava asked. Was he? David was a loose end, Whitmore said. He contacted Caldwell's office 2 days before he died, left a voicemail saying he wanted to cooperate. 12 hours later, he's dead. Emily stood, paced. The anger was building again, the kind that didn't burn hot. It burned cold, surgical. Where's Caldwell now? Pentagon, reassigned last year. He's untouchable as long as he's inside that building. Then we get him outside. Whitmore shook her head. We don't have enough to arrest him, not yet. Everything we have is circumstantial. He's smart, insulated. He never put his name on anything directly. Then we make him. Make him how? Emily turned, looked at Whitmore. He thinks I'm scared. He thinks I'll run, disappear, let this go. And? So we let him think he's right. Whitmore frowned. Explain. We leak that I'm backing off, that I'm refusing to testify further, that I'm taking the reinstatement deal and disappearing into some desk job overseas. Emily's voice was steady. We make him think he won. And then? Then he gets sloppy. He reaches out, tries to confirm it, tries to make sure I'm really gone. Emily's eyes were cold. And when he does, we have him. Whitmore studied her for a long moment. That's a hell of a risk. It's the only move we have. Ava stood. And what about us? The rest of the witnesses? If Caldwell thinks he's winning, what's to stop him from tying up more loose ends? We keep you protected, full security. No one gets close. David had security too, Ava said quietly. It didn't help. Emily turned to her. David didn't have me. Ortega, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. If we're doing this, we need to control every variable, every communication, every movement. One mistake and Carter's dead. I'm aware, Emily said. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're volunteering to paint a target on your back and hope we're fast enough to stop the bullet. That's exactly what I'm doing. Ortega shook her head. You're either very brave or very stupid. Both. Whitmore exhaled slowly. All right, we'll do it your way. But we do it by the book. Every step documented, every communication recorded. If this goes sideways, I want a paper trail showing we did everything right. Agreed. And Carter? Whitmore's voice hardened. If you get yourself killed, I'm putting it in my report that you ignored direct orders. Emily almost smiled. Fair enough. The plan went live within 48 hours. A carefully crafted leak to a journalist known for breaking military stories. Anonymous source. Inside information. Emily Carter, the whistleblower who'd exposed the Silvergate conspiracy, was stepping back, taking a deal, leaving the country. The story ran the next morning. Front page. National coverage. Emily watched it from the safe house, coffee in hand, waiting. You think he'll bite? Ortega asked. He will. How do you know? Because he's arrogant, and arrogant people always think they're smarter than everyone else. Ava sat next to her, tension radiating off her like heat. And if he doesn't? Then we're no worse off than we are now. That's not very reassuring. It's honest. 2 days later, Emily's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it ring twice before answering. Hello? Silence. Then a voice she hadn't heard in 3 years. Captain Carter, I heard you're leaving us. General Richard Caldwell. Smooth, measured, the kind of voice that commanded rooms and ended careers. Emily kept her tone neutral. General? I wanted to reach out, personally, to congratulate you on your reinstatement. It's good to see justice served. Is it? Caldwell chuckled. You always were direct. I appreciated that about you. What do you want? I want to make sure there are no hard feelings. What happened in Kabul, it was unfortunate, but necessary. You understand that now, don't you? Emily's grip tightened on the phone. I understand a lot of things. Good. Then you understand that some fights aren't worth fighting, that some battles are better left alone. Is that advice, General? It's wisdom. From someone who's been in this game a lot longer than you. Caldwell's voice dropped. You've done well, Captain. You exposed corruption, saved lives, but there's a point where pushing further only puts you at risk, and I'd hate to see you end up like young Brennan. There it was. The threat. Wrapped in concern. Delivered with a smile. Emily's voice stayed calm. I appreciate your concern, General, but I'm not David Brennan. No, you're not. You're smarter, which is why I'm confident you'll make the right choice. And what choice is that? Take the win. Move on. Let the rest of us clean up the mess. Emily paused. Let the silence stretch. Then, you're right. I'm tired, and I've done enough. Caldwell exhaled. Relief. I'm glad to hear it. Truly. You've earned your peace, Captain. So have you, General. The line went dead. Emily set down the phone, looked at Whitmore and Ortega, who'd been listening on the trace line. Got it, Ortega said. Full recording. Clear threat. Admission of knowledge regarding Brennan's death. Whitmore smiled grimly. That arrogant son of a bitch just handed us everything. Emily didn't smile. She just stared at the phone. He's not done yet. What do you mean? He's going to move. Tonight. Tomorrow. Soon. He thinks I'm neutralized, which means he's going to tie up the rest of the loose ends before anyone else can talk. We have protection on everyone, Ortega said. It won't be enough. He has resources, connections, people who owe him favors. Emily stood. We need to move first. Move how? We bring him out, force his hand, make him expose himself. Whitmore frowned. We just got him on tape. We don't need to... The tape isn't enough. Any decent lawyer will argue it's vague, circumstantial. He didn't admit to ordering anything directly. Emily's voice hardened. We need him in the act. We need him making a move we can document. We need him caught. And how do we do that? Emily looked at Ava. We use bait. Ava's eyes widened. No, it's the only way. Absolutely not. I'm not dangling myself out there like, not you, Emily said. Me. The room went silent. Whitmore shook her head. That's insane. It's tactical. It's suicide. It's the only move he won't expect. He thinks I'm backing off. If I suddenly resurface, making noise, pushing forward, he'll panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. Ortega crossed her arms. And if he decides the easiest mistake to make is putting a bullet in your head, then you better make sure your people are good at their jobs. Whitmore stared at her. You're serious? Yes. Why? Because if I don't, he wins, and I'm not letting that happen. Ava stood. Emily, it's already decided. Emily's voice was final. We do this. Tonight. The plan was simple, risky, and probably going to get someone killed. Emily would return to Silvergate, publicly, visibly. She'd walk into the hospital, check on patients, talk to staff, make it clear she wasn't going anywhere. And then they'd wait. Caldwell would have eyes on the hospital. He always did. And when he saw Emily back in the field, refusing to stay down, he'd act. The question was how. Ortega spent 2 hours wiring Emily. Microphone in her collar, GPS tracker sewn into her scrub pocket, panic button disguised as a pen clipped to her chest, backup agents positioned at every exit, snipers on adjacent buildings, every angle covered. If anything goes wrong, Ortega said, you hit that button. We'll be on you in 30 seconds. Understood. I mean it, Carter. Don't try to be a hero. Emily met her eyes. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just trying to stay alive long enough to see him pay. Emily arrived at Silvergate just after 8 p.m. The parking lot was half empty. Night shift. Skeleton crew. She walked through the front doors like she'd never left. Rita saw her first. Did a double take. Carter? I thought you were... Change of plans. Rita's face hardened. You shouldn't be here. I know. Then why are you? Because I'm not done. Emily moved through the halls, past nurses who stared, past residents who whispered, past patients who didn't know who she was but could feel the tension radiating off the staff. She made her way to the ICU. Tyler Brooks had been moved to a regular room, but there were others. Veterans who'd survived surgeries, who were recovering, who deserved to know someone was still fighting for them. She checked charts, reviewed medication logs, made notes, and waited. The first sign came at 9:47 p.m. Ortega's voice in Emily's earpiece. We've got movement. Black sedan, 2 occupants, circling the block. Emily kept her eyes on the chart in her hands. Copy. They're parking, east side, service entrance. Emily set down the chart, walked toward the east corridor, calm, steady. Carter, what are you doing? Ortega's voice was sharp. Drawing them out. That wasn't the plan. It is now. She pushed through the service door, stepped into the hallway leading to the loading dock. Dim lights, empty corridor, the kind of place where bad things happened and no one heard about it until it was too late. Footsteps behind her. Emily didn't turn, just kept walking. The footsteps got closer. Then a voice. Captain Carter? She stopped, turned slowly. 2 men, both in civilian clothes, both with the kind of posture that screamed military or ex-military. One was older, 50s, gray hair, cold eyes. The other was younger, 30s, bigger, hands in his jacket pockets. General Caldwell sends his regards, the older man said. Emily's voice was flat. Does he? He's disappointed. Thought you were smarter than this. I am. Then you know how this ends. Emily's eyes flicked to the younger man's jacket, the bulge near his waistband. Gun. Probably 9mm. You're going to shoot me in a hospital? The older man smiled. Tragic accident, disgruntled former employee, snapped under pressure. It'll be in the news by morning. Emily took a breath. Calculated distances, angles, response time. You're not walking out of here, she said quietly. The older man laughed. Neither are you. The younger man's hand moved toward his jacket. Emily moved first. She closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed his wrist before the gun cleared leather, twisted hard. Bone snapped. He screamed. The older man lunged. Emily drove her elbow into his throat. He staggered back, choking. The younger man swung with his good hand. Connected with her ribs. Pain flared. She ignored it, swept his leg. He went down hard. The older man recovered, pulled his own weapon, raised it. Emily kicked it out of his hand. The gun skittered across the floor. Doors burst open. Federal agents flooded the hallway. Ortega leading, weapons drawn. Hands! Now! The older man froze, stared at Emily, blood running from his mouth where he'd bitten his tongue. She stared back, not triumphant, just finished. You're under arrest, Ortega said. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Obstruction of justice. You have the right to remain silent. The man spat blood. You don't know what you're doing. Caldwell's done, Emily said quietly. And so are you. They cuffed both men, read them their rights, dragged them out. Emily stood there, breathing hard, ribs aching. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline wearing off. Ortega walked over. You good? Yeah. That was reckless. It worked? Ortega shook her head. You could have died. But I didn't. Next time you might not be so lucky. There won't be a next time. Ortega studied her, then nodded. All right, let's get you out of here. Whitmore's voice came through the earpiece. We just got word. Federal agents are moving on Caldwell's residence, Arlington. He's being taken into custody as we speak. Emily closed her eyes, let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. It was over. She walked out of the hospital with Ortega, past the reporters who'd somehow already gathered, past the cameras and the shouted questions. She didn't answer any of them, just kept walking. Ava was waiting at the safe house when they arrived. She hugged Emily hard enough to hurt. Don't ever do that again. Can't promise that. Try. They sat in the living room. Whitmore arrived an hour later with updates. Caldwell had been arrested without incident. His lawyers were already making noise, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recorded phone call, the testimony from his hired operatives, the financial trail connecting him to every hospital in the network. "He's going away for a long time," Whitmore said. "All of them are." Emily nodded, didn't say anything. Whitmore looked at her. "You did good, Captain." "I did what needed doing. That's what good is." Emily wasn't sure she agreed, but she was too tired to argue. She went to bed that night thinking it was finally over. She was wrong. Her phone buzzed at 3:17 a.m. Text message. Unknown number. She opened it. One line. No signature. "You should have taken the deal." Then a photo. Ava. Sitting in her car. In the safe house driveway. Crosshairs superimposed over her face. Emily's blood turned to ice. She was out of bed in seconds. Down the hall. Pounding on Ava's door. "Ava! Open up!" No answer. Emily tried the handle. Locked. She kicked it open. The room was empty. Bed made, no sign of struggle. Window closed. But Ava was gone. Emily's phone buzzed again. Another message. "If you want her back, come alone. Old Coldwater Steel Mill. East Warehouse. 1 hour. Tell anyone and she dies." Emily stared at the screen. Then she grabbed her jacket and walked out the door. The federal agent stationed outside the bedroom looked up as Emily passed. "Captain, where are—" Emily didn't stop, didn't answer, just kept moving. She made it to the front door before Ortega intercepted her. "Carter, what's going on?" Emily's voice was flat. "I need to leave." "That's not happening. You're under protective custody." "I'm not asking permission." Ortega stepped in front of the door. "Whatever's going on, we can handle it. That's what we're here for." Emily pulled out her phone, showed Ortega the photo of Ava, the crosshairs, the message. Ortega's face went pale. "When did you get this?" 3 minutes ago." "And Bennett? Where is she?" "Gone." Ortega keyed her radio. "All units, we have a missing witness. Dr. Ava Bennett. Last seen in bedroom 2. Lock down the perimeter. No one leaves." Emily pushed past her. "They already left, and if I don't go alone, they'll kill her." Ortega grabbed her arm. "That's exactly what they want. You show up alone, they kill you both." "Maybe. But if I don't show up, Ava dies for sure. We can send a team. They'll be watching. They'll see a convoy coming and put a bullet in her head before you get within a mile." Emily pulled free. "This is the only way. It's a trap." "I know. And you're walking right into it." "Yes." Ortega stared at her, then cursed under her breath. "Where?" "Old Coldwater Steel Mill, East Warehouse. I have 53 minutes. That place is a dead zone. No cell coverage, no visibility, 50 ways in and out." Ortega's jaw tightened. "If we lose you in there." "You won't." "How do you know?" Emily met her eyes. "Because I'm not planning on staying lost." She walked out before Ortega could stop her again. The drive took 22 minutes. Emily kept her phone off. No GPS. No tracking. She'd left the panic button and the wire on her nightstand. If they were monitoring her, and they probably were, she needed them to believe she was complying. The steel mill had been abandoned for 15 years. Rust and decay. Broken windows. Graffiti covering every surface. The kind of place the city had forgotten about and everyone else avoided. Perfect for an ambush. Emily parked 2 blocks away. Approached on foot. The East Warehouse was the largest structure on the property. 3 stories. Loading docks on both sides. Multiple entry points. She checked her watch. 4 minutes early. She didn't go in yet. Circled the perimeter instead. Looking for vehicles. Lookouts. Cameras. Anything that would tell her how many people she was dealing with. She found 1 car. Black sedan. Same model as the one that had been circling Silvergate. Parked behind a rusted dumpster. 1 car meant 2 people. Maybe 3 if they were confident. Emily kept moving. Found a service entrance on the north side. Door half off its hinges. She slipped inside. The interior was darker than she expected. Moonlight filtered through broken skylights, but it wasn't enough. She let her eyes adjust, counted her breaths, stayed low. Voices echoed from deeper in the warehouse. 2 men, talking in low tones. Emily moved toward them, silent, methodical, every step calculated. She reached a catwalk overlooking the main floor, looked down. Ava was tied to a chair in the center of the space, duct tape over her mouth, hands bound behind her, eyes wide but alert. Two men stood near her, the same two from the hospital loading dock, the older one with gray hair, the younger one with his arm in a sling from where Emily had broken his wrist. No one else visible. But that didn't mean no one else was there. Emily checked her watch. 2 minutes past the deadline. She stepped out onto the catwalk, let her footsteps echo. Both men looked up. The older one smiled. "Captain Carter, punctual as always." Emily stopped at the railing, looked down at them. "Let her go." "Not yet. That wasn't the deal. The deal was you come alone." The older man gestured to the shadows. "And yet I'm hearing chatter on federal frequencies, agents mobilizing, helicopters spinning up." Emily's stomach dropped. Ortega hadn't listened. She'd called it in. "I came alone," Emily said. "But they followed, which means the deal's off." The younger man pulled a gun, pressed it to the back of Ava's head. Ava's eyes locked on Emily, terrified but trying to stay calm. Emily's voice stayed level. "You kill her, you lose your leverage. You lose your leverage, you die here." The older man shrugged. "Maybe. But so do you. And so does she. Which means we all lose." He paused. "Unless you give us what we want." "Which is?" "Everything you have on Caldwell. Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence you've gathered." Emily almost laughed. "You think I'm carrying that around?" "No. But you know where it is, and you're going to tell us." "Why? So you can destroy it? So Caldwell walks?" "So a lot of people walk. People who've been very good to us over the years. People who'd be very unhappy if this all came to light." Emily understood now. These weren't just hired muscle. They were part of the network. Beneficiaries. People who'd profited from the conspiracy and had everything to lose if it collapsed. "Caldwell's already in custody," Emily said. "The evidence is already with federal prosecutors. Destroying my copies won't change anything." "Maybe not. But it'll slow things down. Give people time to cover their tracks, disappear." The older man stepped closer to Ava. "And all you have to do is tell us where it is." Emily met Ava's eyes, saw the calculation there, the understanding. Ava knew what Emily was thinking, that there was no way out of this that didn't end in blood. "All right," Emily said quietly. "I'll tell you." The older man smiled. "Smart. But you let her go first. Not a chance. Then we're at an impasse." "No, we're not." The older man nodded to the younger one. "Shoot her in the leg." The younger man adjusted his aim, moved the gun from Ava's head to her thigh. "Wait!" Emily's voice cracked just enough to sound desperate. "It's in a storage unit, south side, unit 47. Combination is 8352. The older man studied her. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Prove it." Emily pulled out a key from her jacket pocket, tossed it down. It clattered on the concrete near his feet. He picked it up, examined it. Standard storage unit key. "This better be real." "It is." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Check unit 47, Southside storage, combination 8352. He waited, then nodded. "Good. Call me when you have it." He hung up, looked at Emily. "If you're lying, she dies, slowly." "I'm not lying." They waited. 10 minutes that felt like an hour. Emily stayed on the catwalk. The two men stayed near Ava. No one moved. Emily used the time, scanned every angle, every shadow, counted exit points, calculated distances. Her ankle was still sore from the fight at the hospital, but she could move on it. Had to. The younger man was fidgeting, nervous. His grip on the gun kept shifting. The broken wrist was throwing off his balance. He kept compensating, trying to steady himself with his injured arm. Weakness. The older man was calmer, professional, but he kept checking his phone, waiting for confirmation. That was his weakness. Divided attention. Emily shifted her weight, tested the catwalk railing, solid metal, bolted to the frame, old, but it would hold. Finally, the older man's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his face darkened. "What do you mean there's nothing there?" Emily smiled. "Because I lied." The older man's gun came up, aimed at Emily. "You stupid—" Emily dropped. The catwalk railing exploded where her head had been. She rolled, came up running. The younger man swung his weapon toward Ava. Emily grabbed a piece of rebar lying on the catwalk, threw it hard. It connected with the younger man's shoulder. He stumbled. The gun went off. The shot went wide. Emily vaulted over the railing, dropped 15 feet, landed hard. Pain shot through her ankle, but she ignored it. The older man fired again. Emily dove behind a stack of rusted barrels. Bullets sparked off metal. She couldn't see Ava, couldn't see the younger man, could only hear movement and breathing and the older man advancing. "You think you're clever?" he shouted. "You think this changes anything?" Emily didn't answer, stayed low, circled wide. She found a length of pipe, heavy, solid. The older man was close now. She could hear his footsteps, slow, methodical, hunting. She waited until he passed her position, then she moved, swung the pipe hard into the back of his knee. He went down. The gun fell. Emily kicked it away. He tried to get up. She hit him again, harder. He stopped moving. The younger man appeared from behind a pillar, gun raised, shaking. He couldn't aim properly with one functional hand. Emily charged, low, fast, tackled him before he could fire. They hit the ground. The gun skittered away. He swung at her with his good arm, connected with her jaw. Her vision blurred. She drove her elbow into his ribs, once, twice. He gasped. She grabbed his broken wrist, twisted. He screamed. Then she heard sirens, federal vehicles, multiple units, converging fast. The younger man heard them too. His eyes went wide. He tried to fight. Emily slammed his head into the concrete. He went limp. She got to her feet, staggered. Her ankle wasn't broken, but it hurt like hell. Ava was still in the chair, eyes wide, tape still over her mouth. Emily crossed to her, pulled the tape off, started working on the ropes. "You okay?" Ava nodded. Couldn't speak yet. Throat too tight. Emily got the ropes loose. Ava stood, legs shaky but functional. "I knew you'd come," Ava said finally, voice hoarse. "I told you I don't walk away." Then the doors burst open. Federal agents swarmed in, Ortega leading, guns drawn. "Carter, Bennett, on the ground!" Emily raised her hands. "We're clear. 2 hostiles down, both alive." Ortega approached, saw the 2 men on the ground, then looked at Emily. "I told you not to go alone." "I did go alone. And then we followed, because that's our job." Emily didn't argue. She was too tired. Paramedics arrived, checked Ava first, bruises, minor shock, nothing serious. Then they checked Emily. Sprained ankle, contusions, split knuckles. She refused transport. Whitmore showed up 30 minutes later, took one look at the scene and shook her head. "You're either incredibly lucky or incredibly reckless." "Both," Emily said. "We need to debrief. Now." "Fine. But I want answers first." "Answers to what?" "How they got to Ava, how they got past your people, how they knew where we were." Whitmore's expression went cold. "We're investigating that." "You have a leak." "We know." Emily stared at her. "You knew and you didn't tell me?" "We suspected. We didn't have confirmation until tonight." Whitmore gestured to the 2 men being loaded into ambulances. "But now we do. And we're going to find out who." One of the agents approached, handed Whitmore a tablet. She read it. Her face went carefully neutral. "What?" Emily asked. "The younger one just started talking, wants a deal." Whitmore's voice was tight. "He says there's another player, someone we haven't identified yet, someone who's been coordinating everything from the inside." "Inside where?" "Inside the federal investigation." Emily's blood went cold. "You're telling me someone on your team is working for Caldwell?" "I'm telling you we don't know who to trust anymore." The debrief took 3 hours. Every detail, every decision, every moment from when Emily got the text to when the agents arrived. By the end, Emily's voice was hoarse and her head was pounding. They were in a secure conference room at the federal building. Whitmore, Ortega, 2 other agents Emily didn't recognize, a stenographer recording everything. "You should have waited for backup," one of the agents said. Older man, FBI patch on his jacket. "If I'd waited, Dr. Bennett would be dead." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Because that's how these things work. You wait, they kill the hostage. Basic tactical reality. Or you get yourself killed trying to be a hero." Emily leaned forward. "I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was trying to keep someone alive." There's a difference. The agent opened his mouth to argue. Whitmore cut him off. We're not here to debate tactics. We're here to figure out how a federal witness was kidnapped from a secure location. And? Emily asked. And we're running full background checks on everyone with access. Financial records, communications, travel logs, everything. How long will that take? As long as it takes. Emily stood. I'm done here. We're not finished. Yes, we are. I told you everything I know. Now I need sleep and food. And to make sure Dr. Bennett is actually safe this time. Whitmore studied her, then nodded. All right, but you stay in contact. No disappearing. Where would I go? That's what worries me. Emily left. Found Ava sitting in a waiting area down the hall. She looked exhausted, wrung out. They done with you? Ava asked. For now. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't find us. You think they'll try again? I think they're desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. Emily didn't go back to the safe house, didn't trust it anymore. Instead, she checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of Coldwater, paid cash, gave a fake name. No one would think to look for her there. Ava came with her. Neither of them wanted to be alone. They sat in the dim motel room, lights off, curtains drawn. Emily iced her ankle. Ava stared at the wall. Thank you, Ava said finally. For what? Not leaving me. I wasn't going to. I know, but thank you anyway. They sat in silence for a while. Then Ava spoke again. This isn't over, is it? Emily didn't answer right away. Then, no, not yet. How do you know? Because people like Caldwell don't go down easy. They have backups, contingencies, people they've compromised or bought or blackmailed. Emily's voice was flat. And until we find all of them, this doesn't end. Ava closed her eyes. I'm tired, Emily. I'm tired of being scared, tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of wondering if today's the day someone puts a bullet in me. I know. Do you? Because you seem like you were built for this, like you don't feel fear the way normal people do. Emily looked at her. I feel it. I just don't let it stop me. How? Because the alternative is worse. Because if I stop, if I back down, then they win. And I can't live with that. Ava opened her eyes. What if we can't win? What if there are too many of them? Then we make them pay for every inch. We make it cost so much that the next person thinks twice before trying the same thing. Emily's voice was hard. We don't have to win. We just have to refuse to lose. The leak investigation moved fast. By morning, they had a name. Agent Marcus Reyes, mid-level analyst, access to witness protection protocols. Financial records showed deposits from an offshore account tied to one of Caldwell's shell companies. He was arrested at his apartment, didn't resist, didn't lawyer up, just sat there and confessed everything. He'd been feeding information to Caldwell's network for 2 years. Locations, security details, witness identities, all for money, all because he was drowning in debt and saw a way out. David Brennan's death? Reyes had provided his address and security schedule. The attack at the steel mill? Reyes had given them Ava's location and the safe house layout, every leak, every compromise, every near miss, all him. Whitmore came to the motel personally to tell Emily. We got him. He's cooperating, giving us names, dates, transactions. Emily just nodded. You were right, Whitmore said. About all of it. Caldwell, the network, the corruption. If you hadn't pushed, people would still be dying, Emily finished. Yes. Then it was worth it. Whitmore studied her. You don't look like someone who thinks it was worth it. Emily met her eyes. Because it shouldn't have taken this long. It shouldn't have cost this much. And it sure as hell shouldn't have required me to nearly die 3 times just to get people to listen. Whitmore had no response to that. She left. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Ava came out of the bathroom. What now? Now we wait. For what? For the next move. Whose move? Theirs. Because they're not done yet. The grand jury indictments came down on Thursday. 17 people, including Caldwell. Charges ranging from conspiracy to commit murder to wire fraud to racketeering. The media coverage was relentless. National news, congressional hearings announced, VA secretary called to testify, and Emily's name was everywhere. She didn't give interviews, didn't make statements, just watched from the motel room as the machinery of justice finally started turning. But she knew better than to think it was over, because 2 days after the indictments, another body turned up, Dr. Raymond Kemp, the general surgeon from Silvergate, one of the 3 doctors Emily had identified early on, found in his home, single gunshot to the head, staged to look like suicide. But Emily knew better. So did Whitmore. "They're cleaning house," Whitmore said over the phone, "eliminating anyone who might turn on them." Kemp was going to cooperate? We'd been talking to his lawyer. He was considering a deal. "Who else is on the list?" "Dr. Lillian Cross. She's already in protective custody, but we're moving her to a more secure location." "And the others?" "We're rounding them up, but it takes time, and time is something we don't have much of." Emily hung up, looked at Ava. "We need to move." "Move where?" "Somewhere public. Somewhere they can't touch us without exposing themselves." "Like where?" Emily thought for a moment. "Silvergate." "You want to go back to the hospital?" "I want to go where there are witnesses, cameras, people who'll notice if something happens." Ava hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, let's go." They arrived at Silvergate just after noon. The place looked different, cleaner, more organized. The new administration had moved fast. Rita saw them first. Her face lit up. "Carter? Bennett, you're back." "Just visiting," Emily said. "Still, it's good to see you." Rita's expression turned serious. "You heard about Kemp?" "I heard." "People are scared. Staff, patients, everyone. They're worried there's going to be retaliation." "There might be. That's why we're here, to make sure people know they're not alone." Rita studied her. "You're really not afraid, are you?" "I'm terrified. I'm just not letting it stop me." They walked through the halls, past nurses, past doctors, past patients. Emily stopped at each station, talked to people, listened, made her presence known. Because if someone was coming for her, she wanted them to know where she was. And she wanted witnesses. By 3 p.m., word had spread. Emily Carter was back at Silvergate, walking the halls, checking on patients, acting like nothing had happened. The media picked it up. Cameras showed up outside. Reporters started calling. Emily ignored them all. But she knew someone else was watching, someone who didn't want cameras. The first sign came at 5 p.m. A car circling the parking lot. Black, tinted windows. Same model as before. Emily saw it from a third-floor window. "They're here." Ava looked. "What do we do?" "We stay inside, stay visible, stay surrounded by people. And if they come in, then we make sure everyone sees them." The car circled twice more, then left. But Emily knew they'd be back. She called Whitmore. "They're scouting, testing security, looking for an opening." "I'll send a team." "Don't, not yet. Let them commit first." "That's a risk. It's bait, and they're going to take it." Whitmore was silent for a moment. "You're sure about this?" "No, but I don't have a better plan." "All right, but we're watching. First sign of trouble, we move in." "Understood." Emily hung up, looked at Ava. "You should go. This isn't your fight anymore." "Yes, it is. They took me. They threatened me. They made it my fight." Ava's voice was steady. "I'm staying." Emily didn't argue. They waited. The car came back at 7 p.m., parked this time, 2 blocks away, engine running. Emily watched from the window. They're waiting for the shift change, more chaos, easier to blend in. How long? An hour, maybe less. They stayed on the 3rd floor, trauma unit, busy. Lots of staff, lots of witnesses. Emily positioned herself near the nurses' station, clear sight lines to all entrances. Back to the wall, no blind spots. Ava stayed close. 8 p.m., shift change, staff moving, organized chaos. Emily saw them coming, 2 men, different from before. Younger, fitter, military posture, civilian clothes. They walked through the main entrance like they belonged, confident, no hesitation. Emily keyed her phone, speed dial to Whitmore, didn't say anything, just left the line open. The 2 men reached the elevators, hit the button for the 3rd floor. Emily moved, pulled Ava toward the stairwell. Go, now! What about you? I'm right behind you. Ava ran. Emily followed, but she stopped at the stairwell door, turned, watched the elevator. The doors opened. The two men stepped out, looked around, saw the empty nurses' station. Then they saw Emily. She didn't run, just stood there, watching them. One of the men reached into his jacket. Emily's voice was loud, projected. You're being recorded. Every camera on this floor is live streaming to federal servers. Every person here is a witness. You pull that weapon, you're done. The man hesitated. Emily kept talking. You were sent here to kill me, to silence me. But it's too late. Everyone knows. Everyone's watching. And if you don't walk away right now, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. The man's hand stayed in his jacket. The other man put a hand on his arm. She's right. Too many eyes. We have orders. Orders don't mean anything if we're dead or locked up. They stood there, frozen, calculating. Then sirens, multiple units, federal vehicles pulling into the parking lot. The two men looked at each other, then at Emily. This isn't over, one of them said. Yes, Emily said quietly. It is. They turned, walked back to the elevator, disappeared. Emily sagged against the wall. Her hands were shaking now. Adrenaline crash hitting hard. Ava came back up the stairs. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Federal agents swarmed the floor minutes later, secured the building, reviewed security footage, identified the two men from facial recognition. Both were arrested within the hour. Whitmore arrived personally. Looked at Emily. You just stood there. I did. You could have been shot, but I wasn't, because they knew they couldn't get away with it. That was a hell of a gamble. It was the only move I had. Whitmore shook her head. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most reckless. I keep hearing that. 2 weeks later, another indictment dropped. This one bigger, a sitting senator, 2 Pentagon officials, a major defense contractor CEO, the network Caldwell had referenced. The people above him, all being brought down. Because once the first domino fell, the rest followed. And Emily had pushed the first one. The calls started coming, offers, opportunities, people who wanted to hire her, consult with her, put her on boards and committees. She turned them all down, because she'd already decided what came next. She met with Whitmore one last time, a quiet restaurant, private booth. I'm taking the reinstatement, Emily said. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. I thought you didn't trust the system. I don't, but I trust myself. And I trust that I can change it from the inside. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Whitmore nodded slowly. Where do you want to be stationed? Wherever veterans need someone who won't look away. That's everywhere. Then I'll start somewhere and work my way out. Whitmore smiled. You know, when I first read your file, I thought you were just another whistleblower with an axe to grind. And now? Now I think you're the kind of person we need more of. The kind who doesn't quit, doesn't compromise, doesn't let anyone tell them what's impossible. Emily didn't know how to respond to that, so she didn't. They shook hands. Whitmore left. Emily sat alone in the booth, coffee cooling in front of her. Her phone buzzed. Text from Ava. First day back tomorrow. You should come see the new setup. It's actually decent. Emily smiled, typed back. I'll be there. She paid the bill and walked out into the cool evening air. The city looked different now, cleaner, somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. Or maybe that was just her. She got in her car, started the engine. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Hello? A woman's voice, young, scared. Is this Captain Carter? Yes. Who is this? My name is Rachel Gomez. I'm a nurse at Portland Via Hospital. The woman's voice shook. I think something's wrong. Patients are dying. The same pattern you found at Silvergate. I saw the news. I saw what you did. And I think it's happening here too. Emily closed her eyes, took a breath, opened them. Tell me everything. Rachel's voice came through broken, scared but determined. It started 3 months ago, post-op deaths. Same window every time, 6 to 8 hours after surgery. The attending always says complications, unforeseeable. But I've been tracking it, 23 patients, 23 deaths, all veterans, all with insurance policies. Emily's jaw tightened. Have you reported it? To my supervisor, she told me I was imagining patterns, that I was being paranoid. Rachel's voice dropped. Then she transferred me to night shift, away from the surgical wing, away from the records. Who's your supervisor? Diane Voss. She's been here 15 years. Everyone trusts her. Emily knew that playbook. Trusted insider, long tenure, perfect position to bury problems. Are you safe right now? I don't know. I think someone's been following me. I keep seeing the same car. Black sedan, tinted windows. Emily's blood went cold. Where are you? My apartment, 7th Street, Building 4C. Pack a bag. Essentials only. I'm sending federal protection. Don't open the door for anyone except them. They'll identify themselves as Agent Ortega's team. You're sending people? Right now? Right now. Emily hung up, dialed Whitmore. She answered on the first ring. Carter, it's late. Portland Viva Hospital. Same pattern, same conspiracy. Active right now. Silence. Then, how do you know? A nurse just called me. She's been tracking deaths, 23 in 3 months, and someone's following her. Give me her address. Emily did. She needs protection, tonight. I'll have a team there in 20 minutes. And Whitmore? She's scared. Don't send anyone who's going to tell her she's overreacting. I won't. Emily hung up, sat in her car, engine still running. She should go home, should rest, should let someone else handle this. But she knew better. She called Ava. Pack a bag. What? Why? Portland. It's happening again. Emily, you just finished cleaning up Silvergate. You haven't even accepted the reinstatement yet. I know. Then why? Because someone has to. And right now that someone is me. Ava was quiet for a moment. When do we leave? 2 hours. They drove through the night, Emily behind the wheel. Ava in the passenger seat with her laptop, pulling every file she could find on Portland 5, a hospital. Dr. Diane Voss, Ava read aloud. Chief Nursing Officer, 15 years at Portland 5A. Before that, 10 years at a civilian hospital in Seattle. Clean record, no complaints, no disciplinary actions. Too clean, Emily said. What do you mean? 15 years in a VA hospital and not a single complaint? Not a single conflict? Not a single person who didn't like her? Emily shook her head. That's not real. That's curated. Ava kept scrolling. Surgical staff turnover is high. 7 attending surgeons in the last 3 years. That's unusual. Very. Who's currently in charge of surgery? Dr. Nathan Pierce, hired 8 months ago. Before that, he was at... Ava stopped. He was at the Denver VA. Emily's hands tightened on the wheel. Denver. One of the 3 hospitals Whitmore had mentioned. One of the 3 connected to Caldwell's network. He's part of it, Emily said. We don't know that for sure. Yes, we do. The highway stretched ahead of them, dark, empty. Just the 2 of them and the weight of what they were about to walk into. Ava glanced at Emily. You know this might never end, right? Even if we stop Portland, there could be others. Atlanta, Denver. Places we haven't even heard of yet. I know. And you're okay with that? Emily didn't answer right away. She thought about Tyler Brooks, about the families who'd sent her letters, about Rachel Gomez sitting in her apartment right now, terrified but refusing to stay silent. No, Emily said finally. I'm not okay with it, but I'm going to do it anyway. They arrived in Portland at dawn. The city was waking up, traffic starting, coffee shops opening, normal people starting normal days. Emily drove straight to Rachel's apartment building. Federal agents were already there. 2 SUVs, 4 agents. Ortega had moved fast. Rachel was standing outside with one of the agents. Mid-20s. Brown hair pulled back, dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted, terrified, but standing. Emily got out of the car. Rachel Gomez? Rachel nodded. Captain Carter? Just Emily. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I didn't think anyone would come. I came. So did she. Emily gestured to Ava. Dr. Ava Bennett. She helped expose the conspiracy at Silvergate. Rachel looked at Ava. I read about you, both of you. That's why I called. You did the right thing, Ava said. One of the agents approached. Young guy, serious expression. Captain Carter, I'm Agent Dawson. Agent Ortega briefed us. We've secured the witness. No sign of surveillance on the building. Did you check her car? Clean, no trackers, no tampering. Good. Where's Whitmore? En route. ETA 30 minutes. Emily nodded, turned to Rachel. Tell me everything, from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. They went inside Rachel's apartment. Small, clean, organized, the kind of place someone lived when they worked too much to do anything else. Rachel pulled out a notebook. Handwritten logs, dates, times, patient names, medications, outcomes. Emily recognized the format. It was almost identical to the logs she'd kept at Silvergate. I started noticing the pattern 2 months in, Rachel said. Same presentation, same timeline, same excuses. I brought it to Diane. She told me I was connecting dots that weren't there. What did you do? I kept tracking, kept documenting, started pulling insurance records. Rachel's voice shook. Every patient who died had a high-value policy, just like at Silvergate, just like you found. How much? Total? Over $800,000 in 3 months. Ava looked up sharply. That's faster than Silvergate. They're accelerating, Emily said. After Caldwell got arrested, they knew time was running out. They're trying to extract as much as they can before it all collapses. Rachel pulled out more documents. Bank statements she'd somehow accessed. Medication logs she'd photographed with her phone. Surgery schedules with annotations in her handwriting. I wasn't sure what I was looking for at first, Rachel said. But then I remembered reading about what you found, the timing, the patterns, the way they buried it in paperwork. She spread everything across her coffee table. So I looked for the same things, and I found them. Emily studied the documents. The connections were clear once you knew what to look for. Dr. Pierce's signature on every suspicious medication order, Diane Voss's initials on every incident report that downplayed complications, financial records showing transfers to accounts that shouldn't exist. This is good work, Emily said. Really good. You could have been a detective. Rachel laughed, bitter. I just wanted to be a nurse, help people, save lives, not uncover conspiracies. I know the feeling. Whitmore arrived 20 minutes later, took one look at Rachel's logs, and her expression went cold. This is damning. It's also not enough, Emily said. We need more than handwritten notes. We need access to the hospital systems, medication logs, financial records, communication between staff. That requires a warrant. Then get one. It'll take time. We need probable cause. A judge, you have probable cause. You have a witness. You have documented deaths. You have financial records showing the same pattern as Silvergate. Emily's voice hardened. What you don't have is time. Because every day we wait, someone else dies. Whitmore held her gaze, then nodded. I'll make the call. But getting the warrant wasn't as simple as making a call. There were jurisdictional issues. The Portland 5A fell under different oversight than Silvergate. Different district, different judge, different bureaucracy. It took 18 hours. 18 hours during which Emily paced Rachel's apartment like a caged animal. 18 hours during which Ava tried to keep her calm. 18 hours during which Rachel sat quietly, wondering if she'd made a mistake by speaking up. What if they come for me? Rachel asked at one point. Emily stopped pacing. They won't. How do you know? Because I won't let them. You can't be everywhere. No, but I can make sure they know that touching you means declaring war. And after what happened at Silvergate, after Caldwell, after everything, they know what that war costs. Emily sat down across from her. You're not alone anymore, Rachel. You were when you made that call, but you're not now. Rachel's eyes filled with tears again. I was so scared. I thought maybe I was crazy, that I was seeing things that weren't there. You weren't crazy. You were paying attention. That's different. It doesn't feel different. I know, but it is. Emily leaned forward. The system counts on people not paying attention. It counts on us being too busy, too tired, too scared to connect the dots. And when someone does, it tells them they're wrong, that they're paranoid, that they're causing problems. She paused. But you didn't believe that. You kept looking, and that's why we're here. The warrant came through at 3 a.m. Whitmore called personally. We're moving at 6 a.m., full team, every system locked down, every staff member interviewed. I'm coming with you, Emily said. That's not... I'm coming with you. Whitmore sighed. Fine, but you follow my lead. This is a federal operation, not a personal vendetta. Understood. Emily hung up, looked at Rachel. It's happening. Rachel nodded. She looked sick. What do I do? You stay here, with the agents. You stay safe, and you let us handle the rest. Will it work? Emily thought about Silvergate, about how close they'd come to losing everything, about how many times it could have gone wrong. I don't know, she said honestly, but we're going to try. Federal agents moved into Portland V Hospital at 6 a.m. sharp. 50 agents, coordinated, professional. Every entrance covered, every exit blocked. Emily walked in with Whitmore, Ava beside her. They moved through the halls like they owned the place, because today they did. Staff members stared, patients looked confused, administrators tried to intervene. The agents shut them down. Dr. Diane Voss was brought in first, calm, professional, cooperative, too cooperative. Emily watched through the one-way glass as Whitmore questioned her. Dr. Voss, are you aware of the allegations being made against this hospital? I've heard rumors, but I haven't seen any evidence. We have logs. 23 unexplained post-op deaths in 3 months. Complications happen. This is a hospital. People die. Not like this. Not with this pattern. Diane's expression didn't change. I don't know what you're implying, but I can assure you this hospital runs by the book. Every protocol followed. Every death reviewed. By whom? By me. And by Dr. Pierce. And did either of you notice anything unusual? No. Emily's jaw tightened. Diane was good, trained, prepared. She wasn't going to break under normal questioning. But Emily had an idea. She stepped into the interrogation room. Whitmore looked surprised. Carter, give me 5 minutes. Whitmore hesitated, then nodded, stepped back. Emily sat down across from Diane. You're protecting someone. Diane's eyes flickered, just for a second. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You've been covering for Dr. Pierce, making sure the deaths don't get flagged, making sure no one asks too many questions. That's absurd. Is it? Because I've seen this before. Same pattern, same excuses, same person in charge of oversight who makes sure nothing gets escalated. Emily leaned forward. The difference is, this time, we know how it works. We know where to look, and we're going to find everything. Diane's composure cracked, just slightly. I want a lawyer. You can have one, but it won't help, because we already have enough to bury you. The only question is whether you go down alone or whether you take everyone with you. Diane stared at her. You can't prove anything. I don't have to. The numbers prove themselves. 23 deaths, $800,000, insurance payouts tied to a VA benefits program, all happening under your watch. Emily's voice dropped. The only way you walk away from this is if you cooperate. Right now, before we find the evidence ourselves. Diane was silent for a long time. Her hands were trembling now, the calm facade crumbling. You don't understand, she said finally. The hospital was dying. We couldn't keep staff, couldn't buy equipment, couldn't compete with civilian hospitals. People were leaving. Patients were suffering. So you killed them instead? No, Diane stopped, swallowed. Pierce said it was just redirecting resources, that we were taking from high-risk patients who probably wouldn't make it anyway and using those funds to help others, to save more lives than we lost. And you believed that? I wanted to. The hospital needed help, real help, and no one else was offering it. So you justified murder. Diane flinched. It wasn't supposed to be murder. It was supposed to be triage, choosing who could be saved. Except you weren't choosing who could be saved. You were choosing who to kill for money. Emily's voice was ice, and you knew it. You knew it every time you signed off on a death certificate, every time you told a family their loved one died from complications, every time you looked the other way. Diane's face crumpled. I didn't want this. I just wanted to help. Then help now. Tell us everything. Give us Pierce. Give us everyone involved. Make this mean something. Diane took a shaking breath. I want immunity. Talk first. Then we'll discuss terms. And Diane talked. She gave them everything. Names, dates, financial accounts, communication records, the entire network laid bare. Dr. Nathan Pierce. 3 nurses, 2 residents, a billing coordinator, an insurance adjuster who'd been funneling payouts and connections to Caldwell's larger operation. Proof that Portland had been set up as a replacement after Silvergate fell. Proof that the network was bigger than anyone had realized. By the time Diane finished, Whitmore had enough to dismantle the entire operation. Dr. Nathan Pierce was arrested in the middle of a surgery. Federal agents walked into the OR, stopped the procedure, and cuffed him right there. His protests echoed through the hospital. "You can't do this! I'm in the middle of—" "The patient's being transferred to another surgeon," Whitmore said coldly. "You're done." Pierce's face went white, then red. "You have no idea what you're doing. This hospital needs me. This hospital needs doctors who don't kill patients for profit." They let him out. Nurses and doctors watched in silence. Some looked shocked. Others looked relieved. A few looked scared, because they'd known, or suspected, and done nothing. The arrests kept coming. 3 nurses taken from their shifts. 2 residents pulled from rounds. The billing coordinator arrested at her desk. The insurance adjuster picked up at his home. Everyone who'd been complicit. Everyone who'd helped. Everyone who'd looked away. By the end of the day, Portland 5, a hospital, was in chaos. Understaffed. Overwhelmed. Barely functional, but it was clean. Emily stood in the parking lot that evening watching the sunset. Exhausted. Empty. Wondering how many more times she'd have to do this. Ava found her. "We should go. Get some sleep. Come back tomorrow." "Will there be a tomorrow? Or will we get a call from Atlanta next week, or Denver, or somewhere else we've never heard of?" "Maybe. Probably." Ava stood beside her. "But tonight we stopped Portland. We saved lives, and that has to be enough." "Does it?" "It has to be, because if it's not, you'll burn out. And then they really will win." Emily knew she was right, but it was hard to let go. Hard to accept that victory was always partial, always temporary, always one fight in a longer war. But she was learning. The trial for General Richard Caldwell began 3 weeks later, federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. media circus. Protesters outside, victims' families demanding justice. Emily was called to testify on the second day. She wore her dress uniform, full-service ribbons, captain's bars. The uniform she'd been forced to take off 3 years ago, the one she'd earned the right to wear again. She took the stand, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was the same woman from the preliminary hearing, sharp, efficient. She walked Emily through everything: Kabul, Silvergate, Portland, the pattern, the evidence, the bodies. Caldwell's defense attorney tried to tear her apart, questioned her motives, her credibility, her mental state. Emily didn't flinch. "Ms. Carter," Captain Carter. The attorney paused. "You were discharged. I was reinstated. After making accusations that destroyed careers, ruined lives. After exposing a conspiracy that killed hundreds of veterans for profit. You have no proof of that." "Proof of—" Emily pulled out a folder, handed it to the judge. "Financial records, insurance payouts, death certificates, communication logs, all tied directly to General Caldwell's network. Records from Silvergate, from Portland, from Denver and Atlanta." She looked at the attorney. "That's proof." The attorney opened the folder. His face went pale. Because Emily hadn't just brought evidence from the cases that had been prosecuted, she'd brought evidence from everywhere. Every hospital, every death, every dollar. 3 years of investigation, 3 years of documentation, 3 years of refusing to let go, all in one folder. "Your Honor," the prosecutor said quietly, "the prosecution would like to submit this as evidence." The judge reviewed it. His expression hardened. Accepted. Caldwell's defense collapsed after that. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, comprehensive. He was found guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, racketeering, abuse of authority, sentenced to life in federal prison, no possibility of parole. The others fell like dominoes: Dr. Holt, Dr. Pierce, Diane Voss, Dr. Cross. Every person who'd been part of the network, all convicted, all sentenced, all held accountable. The families of the victims were notified, every death investigated, every payout traced, restitution ordered. It wasn't enough. It could never be enough. But it was something. Emily stood outside the courthouse after the verdict. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, questions shouted. Captain Carter, how do you feel about the verdict? Captain Carter, what's next for you? Captain Carter, are you satisfied with the outcome? Emily looked at them, at the cameras, at the people who'd ignored this story for years until it became too big to ignore. I'm satisfied that justice was served, she said carefully. I'm satisfied that the people responsible are being held accountable. But I'm not satisfied that it took this long, that it took this many deaths, that it took this much fighting just to get people to care. What would you say to other whistleblowers? People who see corruption but are afraid to speak up? Emily thought about Rachel, about David Brennan, about every person who'd been silenced or intimidated or destroyed for trying to do the right thing. I'd say do it anyway. Document everything. Find people you can trust. Don't go it alone if you can help it. But most importantly, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone else to fix it, because if you wait, people die. Do you have any regrets? Yes. I regret that I didn't push harder 3 years ago, that I let them force me out the first time, that I didn't find a way to fight back sooner. She paused. But I don't regret fighting now, and I don't regret refusing to stay silent. She walked away before they could ask anything else. The reinstatement ceremony was held at the Pentagon. Formal, military precision. Emily stood at attention while a 3-star general read the commendation. Captain Emily Rose Carter, for exceptional courage and dedication to duty, for exposing corruption at great personal risk, for upholding the values of the United States Armed Forces. Your service record has been corrected, your rank and honors have been restored, and on behalf of a grateful nation, we thank you. Applause, cameras, handshakes. Emily went through the motions, but inside she felt conflicted, because she'd been thanked by the same institution that had tried to destroy her, honored by the same system that had protected the people killing veterans. It felt hollow, but it also felt necessary, because if she rejected it, she'd be walking away again, and she'd promised herself she wouldn't do that anymore. Whitmore found her afterward. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You're lying. Emily almost smiled. Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed to not be fine. Whitmore paused. You saved lives, Carter. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Because of you, this stops. Because of you, the system changes. Does it? Or does it just find a new way to hide? Maybe both, but that doesn't mean you didn't make a difference. Whitmore's voice softened. You know what the real victory is? It's not Caldwell going to prison. It's not the convictions or the reforms or the new oversight. It's that every nurse and doctor in every VA hospital in this country now knows that speaking up is possible, that fighting back works, that one person really can change everything. Emily wanted to believe that. You're proof, Whitmore continued. You're living proof that the system can be beaten, that corruption can be exposed, that justice can be served, and that matters more than you know. The offer from Silvergate was still standing. Chief of Emergency Medicine, full authority, rebuild the department, implement new protocols. Emily accepted. Not because she thought she could fix everything, but because she could fix something, and that was better than nothing. Her first day back at Silvergate, the staff gathered in the main conference room, nervous, uncertain, wondering what she was going to do. Emily stood at the front. No notes, no speech prepared. I'm not here to punish anyone, she said. I'm not here to point fingers or assign blame. What happened here was systemic. It was bigger than any one person, and fixing it requires all of us. She paused. Let that sink in. A lot of people died, people who trusted us, who came here for help, and we failed them. Not because we're bad people, but because we stopped asking questions, we stopped pushing back, we accepted that this was how things worked. She looked around the room. I'm here to tell you that we don't have to accept that anymore. We can ask questions, we can push back, we can demand better, and we can build something different. Someone in the back raised a hand. How? By doing the work, by checking every medication order, by questioning every unexplained complication, by refusing to sign off on something that doesn't make sense, by protecting each other when someone raises a concern. Emily's voice hardened. By remembering that our job isn't to protect the institution, it's to protect the patients. Silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. then the whole room. Emily didn't smile, just nodded. Get back to work. Ava became chief of surgery, implemented new oversight protocols, mandatory audits, independent review boards, whistleblower protections. Together, they rebuilt Silvergate from the ground up. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, it wasn't perfect, but it was better. Rita stayed on as charge nurse, became Emily's right hand, the person who pushed back when Emily pushed too hard, who reminded her that perfection wasn't the goal, progress was. You can't save everyone, Rita said one night when Emily was working a double shift because she didn't trust anyone else to catch what she might catch. I can try. And you'll burn out. And then you can't save anyone. Emily knew she was right, but it was hard to let go. Hard to trust. Hard to believe that the system wouldn't collapse the moment she stopped watching. I'm working on it, Emily said finally. Good. Because we need you, long term, not just until you collapse from exhaustion. Tyler Brooks visited 6 months after his discharge. Walking, healthy, alive. He found Emily in the ER. You got a minute? Emily looked up from a chart. For you. Always. They walked to the cafeteria. Got terrible coffee, sat by the windows overlooking the parking lot. I wanted to thank you, Tyler said, for not giving up, for coming back, for saving my life. Twice. Emily shook her head. I was just doing my job. No, you weren't. Your job was to follow orders, to stay quiet, to not make waves. Tyler's voice was steady. But you didn't. You fought. And because you did, I'm here. My kids still have a father. My wife still has a husband. Emily's throat tightened. I'm glad you're okay. I'm more than okay. I'm alive because of you. Tyler paused. And I'm not the only one. There are hundreds of people walking around right now who don't even know you saved them, who'll never know how close they came to being victims. That's okay. They don't need to know. But you do. You need to know that what you did mattered, that it wasn't just about exposing corruption or putting bad people in prison. It was about saving lives, real lives, people with families and futures and dreams. Emily looked at him, really looked, saw the husband, the father, the person who got to keep living because she'd refused to look away. Thank you, she said quietly. Tyler smiled. No, thank you. A year later, Emily was invited to speak at a medical conference. National audience, doctors, nurses, administrators from VA hospitals across the country. She almost declined. But Ava convinced her. People need to hear from you. They need to see that standing up works, that one person can change everything. So Emily went. She stood at the podium in front of 500 people and told her story. Not the sanitized version, not the hero narrative the media had created. The real story. About being dismissed, ignored, forced out. About watching people die and being told she was imagining things. About the fear, the exhaustion, the moments when she wanted to quit. I'm not special, she said. I'm not braver than anyone else in this room. I was just someone who refused to look away. Who refused to accept that this was normal, that this was how things had to be. She paused, looked out at the audience, saw nurses and doctors and administrators. Some looked inspired. Some looked skeptical. Some looked scared. Every person in this room has that power, she continued. The power to ask questions, to push back, to refuse to stay silent when something's wrong. You don't need authority. You don't need permission. You just need courage. And the belief that what you do matters. Her voice carried across the hall. The system will tell you you're wrong. It'll tell you you're overreacting. It'll tell you to stay in your lane, and if you push hard enough, it'll try to destroy you. She paused. But here's what the system doesn't want you to know. You can win. You can expose corruption. You can save lives. You can change things, but only if you refuse to stay silent. Standing ovation, but Emily barely noticed, because she wasn't doing this for applause. She was doing this so the next person wouldn't have to fight alone. After the speech, people lined up to talk to her. Young nurses, frustrated doctors, administrators who wanted to do better but didn't know how. One woman, mid-50s, tired eyes, waited until everyone else had left. Captain Carter, I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I work at a VA hospital in Arizona. Emily shook her hand. What can I do for you? I think we have a problem. Same pattern you described. Post-op deaths, unexplained complications, financial irregularities. Her voice dropped. And I don't know what to do. Emily pulled out a card, wrote her personal number on the back. Call me. Tomorrow. We'll figure it out together. Dr. Mitchell's eyes filled with tears. You'll help? Of course I'll help. That's what this is about. 2 years after Silvergate, Emily received a letter. Handwritten, no return address. She opened it carefully. Captain Carter. You don't know me, but you saved my father's life. He was a patient at Portland Fetal Hospital 2 years ago, scheduled for surgery. I read later that you exposed a conspiracy, that you stopped doctors from killing patients for money. My father was on that list. He would have died. But because you acted when you did, he lived. He walked me down the aisle last month. He met his first grandchild yesterday. And none of that would have happened if you hadn't refused to give up. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to say thank you. For my whole family, thank you for not walking away. Emily read it 3 times, then folded it carefully, put it in a box with dozens of others, letters from families, from veterans, from people whose lives had been saved by someone they'd never met. She didn't keep them for herself. She kept them for the days when she wondered if it had been worth it, for the days when the exhaustion felt overwhelming, for the days when she questioned whether one person really could make a difference, because they were proof. 3 years after Caldwell's conviction, Congress passed the Veterans Healthcare Accountability Act. Mandatory oversight, independent audits, whistleblower protections, criminal penalties for healthcare fraud targeting veterans. It was nicknamed the Carter Act. Emily was invited to the signing ceremony, stood next to the president, shook hands, smiled for cameras. But the moment that mattered came afterward. A young nurse approached her, mid-20s, nervous. Captain Carter, I just started at a VA hospital in Texas, and I wanted you to know. I'm watching, I'm counting, and if I see something wrong, I'm not going to stay quiet. Emily looked at her, saw herself 5 years ago, scared, determined, alone. Good, Emily said. And if anyone tries to stop you, call me. The young nurse smiled. I will. She walked away. And Emily realized something. This was the real victory. Not the convictions, not the reforms, not the ceremony or the recognition, but this. One person deciding that silence wasn't acceptable. One person refusing to look away. One person believing that speaking up was possible. Because Emily had shown them it was. That night, Emily sat in her apartment, quiet, alone. The city humming outside her window. She thought about everything that had happened. Everyone she'd lost, everyone she'd saved, the cost, the victories, the scars that would never fully heal. She thought about the system, how it had tried to break her, how it had almost succeeded, how she'd survived anyway, and she realized something fundamental. The system wasn't designed to protect people. It was designed to protect itself. And the only way to change that was from the inside, by refusing to be complicit, by asking uncomfortable questions, by pushing back even when it cost everything. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right. It shouldn't require individual heroism to make institutions do what they were supposed to do in the first place. But until the system changed, it did. And Emily had decided years ago that she'd rather fight an unfair fight than surrender to an unjust system. Her phone buzzed. Text from Ava. Drinks tomorrow? I have news. Emily smiled, typed back. I'll be there. She set down her phone, looked out at the city, at the lights, at the people living their lives, unaware of the battles fought in the shadows, the victories won in silence. But Emily knew, and she'd keep fighting. Not because she thought she could fix everything, but because she could fix something, and something was better than nothing. She stood, grabbed her jacket, headed for the door. Tomorrow there would be new battles, new conspiracies, new people who needed someone to refuse to look away. But tonight, she'd earned her rest. And when morning came, she'd be ready. Because Emily Carter had learned something that couldn't be taken away. The system would always try to silence you. The powerful would always try to protect themselves. The easy path would always be to look away. But you didn't have to. You could ask questions. You could push back. You could refuse to accept that this was how things had to be. You could stand up. Even when you were alone. Even when you were afraid. Even when no one believed you. Especially then. Because the only way evil wins is when good people decide it's not worth fighting for. And Emily had decided years ago that she'd rather die fighting than live in silence. The woman they dismissed as just a nurse had exposed a conspiracy that spanned continents and killed hundreds. The woman they forced into silence had brought down generals and doctors and an entire corrupt network. The woman they told to stay in her lane had rewritten the rules, not because she was superhuman, but because she was human enough to care and stubborn enough not to quit. That was power. That was justice. That was what it meant to refuse to be silent. 5 years after it all began, Emily stood in the same Silvergate ER where she'd first noticed something was wrong. The place looked different now, better, cleaner, safer. But more than that, it felt different. Staff asked questions now, pushed back when something didn't make sense, protected each other when someone raised a concern. The culture had changed, not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Rita found her staring at the board. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking." "About? About how far we've come. How much has changed." Emily paused. "And how much further we have to go." "You can't save the whole world, Carter." "I know, but I can save this corner of it, and maybe that's enough." Rita smiled. "It's more than enough." That evening, Emily drove home thinking about the young nurse from Texas, about Rachel from Portland, about every person who'd called her asking for help or guidance or just confirmation that they weren't crazy. She thought about the system, how it was better now but still broken, how it would probably always be broken, how there would always be people trying to exploit it and people who needed protection from that exploitation. And she thought about her role in all of it. She wasn't a hero. She'd never wanted to be. She was just someone who'd refused to look away when everyone else did. And somehow, that had been enough to change everything. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but she did. "Captain Carter?" "Speaking." "My name is James Rivera. I'm a doctor at a VA hospital in Miami, and I think I need your help." Emily pulled over, got out her notebook. "Tell me everything." And the work continued. Because it always would. But that was okay, because Emily Carter had found her purpose. Not in being silent, not in following orders, not in accepting that the system was too big to change, but in refusing to accept that, in standing up, in fighting back, in proving every single day that one person, one voice, one refusal to look away could change everything. She'd done it once, and she'd keep doing it, for as long as it took, for as long as people needed someone to believe them, to stand with them, to show them that speaking up was possible. That was her mission now, not saving everyone, but saving someone, and teaching others to do the same, because that was how you changed a system, not from the top down, but from the inside out, one person at a time, one question at a time, one refusal to stay silent at a time, until the silence became impossible, until the truth became undeniable, until justice became inevitable. That was the work. That was the victory. That was what Emily Carter had fought for and would keep fighting for. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And because she'd learned through blood and tears and exhaustion and pain that one person really could make a difference. She'd proven it, and now so could anyone else. All they had to do was decide that enough was enough and stand.